Hola y bienvenidos a 12 Niños de Tiempo, donde cumpliremos 100 años de soledad. Aquí está mi confitriona de una de mis historias, Lindsey Dunn. Adabaco, Lindsey.
Buendia.
Yes. For our Spanish-speaking listeners, I tried to do my intro in Spanish there, and I think I did a great job. Right, Lindsey?
I thought it sounded pretty good. I was like, I didn't have any specific pronunciation faux pas that I could identify that you'd made. So
Perfect.
Good job all around.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to pat myself on the back. And I don't know why I haven't been doing that every time. Like, this is episode 8 we're getting ready to talk about here, which is the last one of this season. And we don't know when we're going to be talking again. And I just realized this time I've never done the intro in Spanish, and I should have been doing it all along. I don't know. We're episode 8 here. Like I said, how do you like in the end of the season, Lindsey?
What is this inflection you're using in your voice?
I'm practicing different ways to talk.
Well, interestingly enough, as when I watched the episode twice, once to just watch it and once to take notes. And I was kind of thinking, I don't really like this episode.
Okay.
But I did come up with a lot of interesting commentary and notes to say about it. But I think overall, I feel like I wasn't happy with how this left off. I thought that the show has been building with some really intriguing content, and it just seemed kind of, bummer of a place for them to stop. We don't want to talk about how it ends yet, but...
Don't spoil anyone.
Because we know you're watching along with us. You're not going to watch it till you hear what we have to say. But I thought that, it was... I didn't find, story-wise, where they left off to be an effective place if you wanted to leave things with a cliffhanger or, oh boy, sure. I can't wait to see what happens next. It seemed a little dull, to be honest with you. But as I wrote down my notes, I had a lot of good, or I thought interesting things to say about the episode, especially things I think about some deep connections with our dark universe. So it was like, I was like, I bet you're going to be happy, Steve. But it did take me a while to write out my notes because of things I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget to say.
Okay. I guess I like this episode more than you did, because I remember the last episode I didn't really enjoy as much. It's not that I loved this one. I'm going to defend it to my death. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it more than the last episode. I agree with you, though, that the place they chose to end the season and then allegedly begin the next season is strange because, as you know, I'm reading along. I'm a book nerd, so I'm reading along with the book to make sure they do everything right. And we're at about the 33% mark at the book right now. So allegedly season 2 is going to be covering 60-some% of this book.
Because there's only 2 parts, right? There's not 3 parts. It's only going to be 2 parts.
They said this is going to be a 16-episode thing, 2 seasons. So yeah, maybe there's a lot of stuff they'll squeeze in. But yeah, I like this episode more than you did, it sounds like. I think I got a little more out of it. And most of the stuff I have to talk about, we'll be talking about it, as it comes up in the episode, as usual. And when we get to the end, I do have 2 thought exercises for us, which will be fun. We got to make sure that we keep the show fun for our listeners who don't think this show is fun. But I'm a little bummed that we're not going to have a show for me and you to be doing. So that's the main reason that I'm not thrilled that we're doing this episode 8, because you and I have come to an end of this season now. And I don't like to see that happen, especially when you say you didn't love this episode. So we're not going to have a fireworks session going, or maybe we will. Maybe I'll disagree with you a whole bunch and we'll get mad at each other.
We had a big clash last week about Pietro.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, maybe we'll have some more. I'm looking forward to that.
But last episode there was some clashing of heads about Pietro. I guess I really liked episode 7. So maybe that's coloring things. And like I said, it's a total Benjamin Button situation for us. Like when you like it, I don't like it. When I like it, you're kind of like, meh. So we have to keep with that pattern, apparently.
The good thing is that there's always interesting things to like make parallels about and to notice. And there's a lot of thought exercising your brain happening with this show and with the book. It's like, I just podcasted recently with somebody and I just mentioned the name of the show and he was like, oh, Gigi Marquez. He knew exactly who he was and he was familiar with his work. And I thought that was really interesting. And he he really enjoyed it. And he's not an author that I would know right off the top of my head like he did. Maybe he's a more book savvy person than I am. But I don't know. I'm just trying to say 100 Years of Solitude. Here we go. That's what I'm trying to say, Lindsay.
Mm-hmm. And I'm coming through for you, right?
Yes, you are. I see you blinking and all kinds of stuff. You're not frozen.
Okay. Well,
am I?
Well, no, I mean, I'm looking at our lines and my line is like flatlined as if I'm dead and yours is strong and powerful. So
you look alive to me. I can see some lines happening.
Okay, I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
I just got no heartbeat going on right now. Call it time of death.
Well, let's get it pumping here. You're going to lead us through the recap or am I leading us through the recap this week?
I got the recap notes, Steve.
We did double duty. We both took notes. So, yeah.
Yeah. We both always take notes and stuff.
That's what I was going to say, too. You said you watched the episode once for notes and then once for just for pleasure. I ended up watching this one 4 times in total. So I've seen this one 4 times.
Okay.
I watched it today because I think we were supposed to record last week and then we didn't. So I was already ready last week with all my notes and my thoughts and stuff. So then today I was like, I better, refresh my memory with the show. And I got to sit down and just watch it. No notes, no pausing, just enjoying it. So I'm coming at it with a fresh, fun attitude.
Fresh fun. Yeah, for those of you that don't think the show is fun, Steve says it's fresh and fun. So
both.
All right. So the title of the episode is So Many Flowers Fell from the Sky.
Yes.
So it starts with a few months after Arcadio's execution, Colonel Buendia is captured. Only one of his fellow soldiers survived, Hernaldo. He's brought into the town unceremoniously led by a noose around his neck by none other than Mark Wahlberg. Okay, the same, which we find out later that his name is Captain Carnicero. And I do wonder if that translates somehow to meat because, carne is meat. So I'm like, Is this Captain Meat? Captain Meathead? Amaranta greets Aureliano and Aureliano inquires about her wrapped hand. She tells him it was just, some kind of an accident and that Aureliano Jose is all grown up. More about him later. Mm-hmm. Ursula is beside herself and tries to get to her son, but for once, this mama is blocked. The town all weeps as they realize that the rest of their beloved boys are dead. And Aureliano tells mom to go home and ask permission to come visit him in jail.
Yep. Do it the right way. Do it. Ask for permission. Don't just roll up in there. But yeah, we also see Rebecca. She's there watching along with Jose Arcadio's in tow. And yeah, Amaranta has that black glove she wears on her hand now, which is like the Michael Jackson style. And the dude that he arrived in town with is also a Marquez, another G Marquez. Right. So we got to point that out that, this guy keeps writing himself into his story over and over again as well. Keeps reappearing. Mm-hmm.
The crowd all cheers for the colonel, but Mark Wahlberg tells them all to go home, and his sentence will be carried out in Macondo as a lesson to the people.
That's the first thing I wanted to throw in there. We were talking about our friend Nate sent us a thing about how a guy in Philly got one of his last wishes was to be buried with some hoagies. So this fellow, Aureliano, he was captured in war along with that other guy. And knowing that they would be put to death, he was granted one last wish, in the book that is. And his last wish was if he was going to be, executed, for it to be in the town of Macondo. Mm-hmm. So they granted his wish. And that's the reason, that's a different reason, I guess, that he's there.
Right.
And I also wanted to point out that Ursula's shirt looks just like the fabric in my bathroom. I have the exact same fabric on my curtain in my bathroom that Ursula's shirt. I jumped in my chair, and when I saw that, I loved it.
Well, you emphasized the point that, Aureliano kind of gets what he wants, or that was his wish, that he be buried there. But I did think it was interesting that they tell us this fact that, so I guess maybe normally, rather than execute him in his home, he would have been executed right there and then, or outside of your own place. But they purposely brought him back to the town to be punished, with his people, so that, I guess, again, it was as a lesson to the people. So, the soldiers, the conservative soldiers weren't doing it to, be nice to Aureliano. They were doing it to make sure everybody knows, this is what happens to people who...
Right. That's the reason they say in the show. In the book, it's completely different because they want to make sure he has a trial. They can't just shoot him on the battlefield because this is like a civilized war. So
I see.
They have to they have to declare someone to death, and somebody from higher up has to make it happen. But the whole thing with these soldiers is that they've been dragging their feet about executing him. They were supposed to execute him at some other place, and then he made this wish to be executed in Macondo, and they jumped at the chance to do that and they made the trip to Macondo as slow as possible because they didn't really want to shoot him because they liked him. That was the whole thing is they thought he was cool, and they wanted to prolong this as long as possible.
Yeah, I was one. That's interesting information. Yeah, it's not clear. I mean, we see that, later, but it's not clear that immediately that the soldiers necessarily, the ones that have captured him, like him. They're just another rebel, is how you could interpret it.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
So indeed, Ursula does go to visit him in jail, and she's told by the captain that she can't see him and that they're just waiting to hear his official sentence, which goes along with what you said, that, we're doing things by the book, which is, that's good to know. At least they're not throwing the elections around, maybe. But there will be no visitors. And Ursula says there's no way she's not seeing her son, so just shoot her if he must. And I guess he can see that she means it and lets her through. And we can see that she's got those fine black boots of Aureliano's in her basket.
Oh, yeah.
And we've seen those boots before. And we were also told that, these are the boots he's going to wear when he's facing the firing squad. So that's when the boots are delivered.
Yeah. I guess you're still going because she delivers something else to him as well. Oh, no, he delivers something to her. He has those poems that he has written on the road to his lost love, or these old poems that he had written. And he asked his mom if she would burn them, which I thought was weird because he could have done that. He could have flushed them down the toilet or something, or he could have destroyed them himself. I don't know why he put those in his mom's hands.
Yeah, I had that same note too, but we've seen these poems before. When he first left for home and joined the revolution, and he put on his newsy outfit, we saw him take these little scrolls, and he kind of took them out of his memory chest, or his special box, and took them. And I said, I think those are the poems that he wrote Remedios, and so it was rewarding to see that here. But yes, I thought the same. I thought it was the same thing was weird. Why not just tear them up? But I guess maybe he was afraid the soldiers would get a hold of them. If he kept them, or maybe they didn't allow him to have matches or something. But it seems like he maybe wanted his mom to read them. She does, maybe as a memory for what the love that they shared. I don't know. So inside the prison, she and Aureliano clasp hands. She tells him that Arcadio named the baby Remedios, which is interesting because we had heard Arcadio say if it's a girl, name the baby Ursula. And you had said that in the book, actually, he says, oh, no, I meant Remedios. But, the baby was named Remedios. So I guess somebody knew. Maybe it was Santa Sofia. Maybe she knew that, like, he really wanted the baby named Remedios.
They were going to go with Ursula, but Ursula was the one who said, don't name the baby Ursula because that name carries too much pain. Right. Name the baby Remedios.
She said that the name comes with great suffering.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that was in the show. Okay, cool.
Yeah. She also remarks about how he's born with his eyes wide open, looking all around, curious but unbothered. And she also remembers the sadness on his face when she returned, when she was gone without his brother. So she's thinking of all the memories she has of him as she prepares for the possibility of his death.
Yeah, and he does say in the show here that it's interesting to himself, Aureliano, how he cannot see his own death. He's seen like a lot of things come true, and he has these visions, but he doesn't have any visions of his own death.
That's right. He says, for whatever reason, he can't see his own death. That surprises him.
Yes.
But he says he feels like he's already lived through this moment.
Yeah, that's cool.
Besides giving her the poems and saying, that he doesn't want anyone to read them, he says, don't cry for me, Argentina. He asks her
didn't say that.
Well, as soon as he says, don't cry, don't humiliate yourself, like all I could think of was don't cry for me, Argentina. He asks her not to say goodbye or humiliate herself, act as if I was executed weeks ago and I'm already dead. And I thought that was an interesting wish that he had. I guess he thinks of his mother as a dignified person and wants that to continue. But do you have any other insight from the book as to why he said this to her?
No, besides what I think is pretty plain, but I think an interesting little tidbit that's added to the book is Ursula also smuggles in a gun to Aureliano into the jail. And he's like mad at her for doing that because he's like, I've already lived through this. He says these same things to her. And he's like, but, I guess give me the gun. I'll hang on to it because they're going to search you on the way out. And I don't want them to find this gun on you because you'll get in jail too. And then the gun is just never mentioned again. Like he has this gun. He has an opportunity to escape. He has an opportunity to kill any of the guards or himself, but he doesn't take it because he's like resigned to his fate. He has the power to like change it, but he doesn't.
Yeah. So it's the opposite of Chekhov's gun. It's like,
yeah,
there's going to be a gun, but it's never going to be used.
Exactly. I don't know if maybe that's the reason that he did that. Maybe he did like a reverse Chekhov's gun thing on purpose. The author, that is. I don't know. Speaking of the author, before Ursula leaves, she like says a little something to the other guy too. She gives him a little blessing, a little hug or something as well. The other Marquez guy. Right.
Because, he doesn't have a mama in there to say goodbye to him. So
it's cute. I like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting her to do that, so I thought it was cool.
Well, she's kind of the mother of Macondo, so she feels like everybody's her children, I guess, to some extent. The conservative soldiers enter Catarino's, ready for some fun. And
fun.
This podcast is fun, after all. Captain Carnicero sees that they're not wanting to serve them, and he assures them he's not here on duty. He just wants to unwind, maybe a little hanky-panky. Pilar shrewdly tells the captain that no one wants to sleep with him because it's bad luck to sleep with a man on death row. And there's a curse on anyone's head who kills Aureliano. Such a man will die sooner or later without exception, which I thought was very funny because, yes, everybody is actually going to die sooner or later without exception. So in that way, Pilar is saying something very true, but yet couching it as a threat, like to make them really think about, if they want to go through with this action. And this is when he says that I have nothing against the colonel. I think he's really brave and I admire him, but if the order comes, I will have to execute him. And Katerina suggests he prays then that order will never come.
What else can you say? I mean, it seems like that's the right thing to say. I don't know. But Pilar is cool here. I love Pilar here. Like, she stands up to all these soldiers and gives them this Aureliano warning. Like, I was cheering Pilar on. This is the most I've liked her, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think Pilar's pretty cool. I mean, I don't think she should go around, molesting young boys.
No.
But she is a very resourceful woman that has some good ideas.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because this stuff that she's saying to them, how like the man who kills Aureliano is gonna, die himself suddenly, like soon, not of old age.
Well, she does say sooner or later.
I know. Yeah. Well, I'm just emphasizing that. But the words that she's saying are, this is what these soldiers have been telling themselves during this whole trip to Macondo. So like, Pilar is the voice of that in the show. In the book, these soldiers tell themselves this, and that's why another reason they don't want to kill Aureliano is because he has this legend around him, and the legend is the person who kills him is going to be cursed.
So you're saying that in the book, Pilar does not deliver this speech?
No, in the book, there's another woman who gives a similar speech, but all this stuff about the person who kills him is going to, suffer. That's something that the soldiers that's like a legend that soldiers tell each other.
Well, good on you, Pilar. Another great Pilar moment here.
Yeah, I thought the best one, in my opinion.
Ursula reads the love notes from Aureliano, and Aureliano waits and waits and waits. The orders do come through with the sentences. Herrenelda will be kept in prison for 7 years, and Colonel Buendia will be executed for rebellion. It must take place immediately. And Aureliano proclaims that this is good news because he just learned Macondo has a telegram.
I know. What a twist. At first you think he's going to say, good news, you're going to kill me. But he's all about advancement. See, he's a progressive.
Now this is part of his charm to the soldiers, apparently, because he's above such things as petty fears, and he's just thinking about the progress that's being made in his town. Yeah.
Oh, and we get to see him shirtless taking a bath here, looking pretty sexy for a while. I mean, they really lingered on that scene. So, I don't know. I think it was there. I think it was there for a reason.
Okay. So he gets a bath and dresses in his peasant gear. He isn't scared, but feels sad that he will not get to finish things he wanted to see through. And just like Arcadio, Rebecca and Jose Arcadio too watch these proceedings because, after all, the cemetery is right in their backyard. Yeah. So they kind of notice that, they're bringing him in. And he thinks about the time that his father took him to see ice. So this is back at the very beginning, the very first moment of the show. And he's thinking about his father. Then Captain Cornacero orders his men to aim their rifles ready for the order. A single shot rings out, but Aureliano has not been shot. Instead, Jose Arcadio II and Rebecca have interfered. They stopped Mark Wahlberg. Good job. The captain orders his men to release Aureliano, and this is all quite strange. And then the captain announces that he's at Aureliano's service.
Yeah. So he was waiting for this opportunity to happen. So in the show, it seems like they give up really quickly. It's divine providence. But they've been waiting for any excuse not to shoot him. But to join him, though, is really unusual for them to all of a sudden, switch sides. And we're at your service now. Now you have, 6, 7 armed dudes at your command, which is, again, just his riz leads the way.
Yeah. So any insight from the book about this moment? What was Captain do we know what he was thinking? I mean, we know he was not wanting to kill Aureliano, but what made him join his side and go the extra mile?
He gave a speech here Aureliano gave this speech laden with a lot of curse words. He was like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he's like, if I don't know, he said something about getting fucked and like you're fucked in life, and it didn't sound like a very inspiring speech. I think intentionally it was not supposed to be an inspiring speech because they make a big point saying, despite Aureliano's like coarse words or whatever, the sergeant was ready to, lay down his arms. And I think all along they've been kind of wanting to do this because there were these hints all along in the book about how, they admired him, they're buddies with him, they talked with him and all this other stuff. So, yeah, I just think they were just waiting for a reason. And Rebecca gave them that opportunity. I think it was Rebecca in the book that did all the heavy lifting. And in the show, I think it was Jose Arcadio that did the heavy lifting, right?
Well, we just see both of them show up with firearms. It's not like, who influenced who? But it does kind of make you think it was Jose Arcadio too,
Yeah, because he shot the gun.
But it's kind of interesting that, they didn't interfere with Arcadio's execution, right? So they only interfered with Aureliano's, which, we had that whole discussion about what are they feeling about him, and your word you used was just indifference, that he was indifferent towards his son and that he just didn't have feelings. I still am not sure I think that's possible, but he didn't have enough connection to him to want to make sure he doesn't die, but they did with Aureliano, that's for sure.
Well, they make every point to point out that he's like this mythic, epic figure too. Like he thunders across the battlefield and people have been trying to poison him and kill him and no one can do it. So yeah, like the legend around these people, I think is, kind of like leads your thinking, I suppose, or is supposed to lead your thinking. These are larger than life individuals. And Arcadio simply didn't have that presence.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he absolutely did not. He was a buffoon. I feel sorry for him, but yeah, he wasn't somebody that engendered respect or you wanting to kind of help him. So
they talk about Rebecca, Jose Arcadio, Aureliano in these terms of like nature, forces of nature. And, it kind of lifts them up a lot more so than Arcadio. And he's just kind of left in the cold. Well, he's dead now. So, peace, buddy.
So Aureliano hugs his adopted sister and his older brother. And Jose Arcadio too says he won't save him again. But it's a nice moment because the brothers have, there's distance between them now. When we saw how close they were as boys, but in his moment of need, he did show up.
Saved his life.
Yeah. And Aureliano leaves town with his newly found supporters, and they join forces with Colonel Victoriano Medina. 1 year later, the Buendia house is filled with children again. Ursula took in Santa Sofia and her daughter Remedios, who loves wiping her poop on the walls. And there are these two twins that are born after Arcadio's execution, Aureliano Segundo and Jose Arcadio Segundo. And then Amaranta is taking care of everyone, including Aureliano Jose.
Weird, right? Wasn't she like banished from the house and Ursula said, you're disowned forever. I never want to see your face again.
Yeah,
and now
it was just the last episode telling us that she abandoned her forever, I think was what it said. A
little inconsistent here, but I'm glad she's there to take care of the kids. These kids need taking care of, especially little Remedios. In my notes, she's shit ass because she has all that shit on her ass and then she wipes it on the walls.
Yeah. And I'm like, is that what? I don't know. I've never seen a child do that, but I guess.
I mean, this show shows you all kinds of stuff you don't think you're going to see.
Yeah, and her mom it's funny that her mom just picks her up and she's wearing like, I don't know, kind of a nice dress. And she's like, I told you not to do that. And she just holds her and it's like, I would be like, I'd be like doing the Mr. Mom thing where you like, are holding the child at a distance, but.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, while that's all going on,
It's good comic relief. It's fun. I like that. Totally is fun. You can't deny that whole scene was a lot of fun.
I don't
And no
know.
lie.
I don't know. Like when I see casual, I don't know. At first I didn't know what was going on. I thought maybe she had chocolate, and I was like, but when I see casual just wiping of poop on, it makes me feel a little nauseous. So it wasn't fun for me. I was like, okay, please stop. Let's like move along. And we did. Well, so can we move along now?
Absolutely. Let's move along.
Sweet Shot of Time is brought to you by Zencastr. Zencastr is the way we record Sweet Shot of Time. We hook up with our guests via video and we record it on audio. Recently, we've been doing video podcasts with the cast of Time Bandits. It's easy using Zencastr. You can record video or audio. You can also edit your podcast or your video via Zencastr. Join Zencastr using my promo code Sweet Child of Time, and you can get 30% off Zencastr. If you're ready to start your podcast, it's time to share your story. Share it with Zencastr. That promo code once again, Sweet Child of Time at Zencastr.com.
So Ursula reads the paper to Jose Arcadio. The government is going to meet with liberal politicians to negotiate a truce. And she mentions that he always knew politics was a plague, and Jose Arcadio Buendia wants a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
He kind of takes the coffee out of her hand and drinks it. And so I guess it's kind of a nice little moment between the two of them, because it's like, okay, well, it seems like they played that up to be like a big deal. Like maybe he hasn't wanted to drink coffee in a while. And
yeah, that's what I kind of took from it too. That like this was unusual. We'll leave it as it is for now, because you're right. It's cute, and we'll visit them again later.
So, yeah, I mean, it's actually, the funny thing was when I saw this scene and I just told you to drop the poop, but we're going to talk about the poop again for a minute. So, okay. You had mentioned that the Visitacion had cleaned up Jose Arcadio Buendia's poop. Yes. And I was like, oh gosh, is that her grandpa's poop? like why did she? It was like from her own butt though. But I thought that maybe she was playing in her grandpa's poop.
I hope not. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. I think that came internally. That was an internal poop. Mm-hmm, that would make it worse if it was somebody else's. That makes it a lot worse.
So then Jose Arcadio too collects taxes from the same farmer he went to visit before. And he's like, where's the rest of the taxes? This isn't enough. But the man mentions that his sons are with Aureliano fighting the war. So they don't have as much profits as they might have had, because they've lost some of their laborers. And Jose Arcadio too doesn't look too happy about this, but he lets it go for now.
Yeah, I guess I'll let it go for now too. I do. I'll put a pin in that, because I do think that this comes into play later.
Okay, but why are we delaying talking about it now? Is it a secret?
It is a secret. But for right now, I don't like Jose Arcadio being the tax collector, going around and doing especially when this guy has a legitimate reason. It's just him and his wife. His kids are away, and he's like leaning on these people to like be more productive and give him more money. So it just makes me not like him. But yeah, like I said, I'll put a little, what do you say? We'll put that in the parking lot, and we'll circle back around to that later. That's what we say during our meetings.
I don't like it either. I didn't like it before, but you were the one that was kind of defending him and say he's not trying to be a jerk. He's trying to make everything more equitable. By
correct. I did say that because that was presented in the book as his reason for replowing the lines. But not for going to everybody's house and collecting taxes, which I still is a big question mark on my head.
The taxes thing, it's hard to forgive, especially with all the talk of taxes right now in our country. So,
and I don't even know why they make him be the tax collector, because like I said, this is like a show thing. And that's why I say that we'll come back around to this very soon. My thoughts about this.
Especially since that sort of deal or whatever was set up by Arcadio, and you would think that maybe it would have been seen as like, hey, maybe this isn't such a good thing and we should do away with this practice. Ursula kind of made sure that certain things didn't happen, but I guess some of the damage has been done and is still going on in Macondo with economic, trying to use things for profit.
Right.
Yeah. So Amaranta brushes Aureliano Jose's hair. He touches her hand and asks if it hurts. She tells him yes, and he asks if he can sleep in her bed tonight. And she says, okay, but not much longer. You need to get used to sleeping in your own bed. This is the very last time.
Right. This scene was weird. I want to move on from it right now because it was a really weird scene. We're going to come back and talk about it, but this is just basically foreshadowing. I didn't like this scene at all. I know why it's here. It's just a foreshadowing bit, but I don't have anything to say about it other than it was just weird and gross.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a repeating anthem every time we have a scene with Amaranta and Aureliano Jose. For me, I'm like, cringy and gross, but okay. So we find out that Rebecca and Jose Arcadio II have moved into Arcadio's house. Mm-hmm. They are tired of living amongst the dead. So I guess they got tired of living with the churchyard and the cemetery in their yard. They seem pretty happy. One afternoon, as they are about to make love, a wind gusts through town and a single shot rings out. A red river of blood makes its way down the street all the way to Ursula's house. A thread, red like blood, that connects all of their deeds, just like in Dark. And Ursula sees the blood and follows it back to Jose Arcadio's house. She holds her son in his arms, and Rebecca swears she never saw what happened.
Right. See, this is what I think, because I believe Rebecca too. Rebecca's like distraught about this, but nobody knows how it happened. It's like a Kurt Cobain situation. That's what it made me think of. This guy gets shot. It seems like maybe his wife might have did it, but she had no reason to do it. I think there's no answer. There's no answer. We're left to our own interpretation because they say in the book as well, like this was one of the mysteries of Macondo that's never been solved. How did Jose Arcadio die? So I don't have the answers, but what I think is in the show, he was a jerk and collected taxes. And that same farmer that he went and strong-armed for his taxes, I kind of believe that came back on him. And that guy came to his house and shot him. I think that's my theory. I don't have any way to prove it, but I don't see any other reason why he would be a tax collector and why they would show us that scene of him collecting the taxes when it had nothing to do with anything else.
Okay, now this is interesting because I had read some commentary about the book that makes it fairly clear, from my understanding, the book makes it fairly clear that it was Rebecca.
No, absolutely not. I mean, because, I read that chapter too, and it was absolutely clear.
It was clear that what? That
she did not, or that she was denying do it.
Okay. Well, I'll have to find, not right now, but I will have to find the article I wrote because it was like a study guide even. It was like a study guide for studying. It was like, why do you think Rebecca killed her husband? So it's like a question a teacher included on a test.
Right. Well, it was never like revealed why. And give me a moment of silence for 1 second, Lindsay, okay?
In honor of who?
In honor of Jose Arcadio, of course, who was just murdered. I'm gonna find that part in the book because it's very short. It's very brief. So it says, he greeted Rebecca, went into his bedroom to change his clothes. Rebecca later declared that when her husband went into the bedroom, she was locked in the bathroom and did not hear anything. It was a difficult version to believe, but there was no other plausible explanation, and no one could think of any motive for Rebecca to murder the man who had made her happy. This was perhaps the only mystery that was never cleared up in Macondo. As soon as Jose Arcadio closed the bedroom door, the sound of a pistol shot echoed through the house, trickle of blood came out, went through the town, etc., etc., etc. That's all it says. So, that doesn't tell me that it's clearly Rebecca. Does that tell? That's all it says about it. There's nothing else.
Well, I guess, but there's also not really anything to support what you're saying, which is fine.
Because that's a show only thing. He's not a tax collector in the book. This is a show thing.
So only in the show? Only in the show? Do you
Collecting
have that
taxes.
theory? Okay.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that their house looks a lot like the Buendia household. It almost looks identical to it, like maybe Arcadio was trying to copy that architecture. And a fun thing about the book is that Moscote, he doesn't die in the book. The guy with all the daughters, who is Remedios' dad, all those sisters move in with Rebecca and Jose Arcadio into Arcadio's old house. For whatever reason, they live with them. So like they were there hanging out as well.
Okay. But yeah, it was an interesting visual, this red, thread of blood that connects where Jose Arcadio too, connects it to Ursula. And of course, this is magical realism. So everything's kind of taken with a grain of salt. What is reality here? But there's something about it that lets Ursula know that, she needs to run to her son's side, that he's hurt. So, really cool visual.
Yeah, awesome. It passed by so many other people and it went through like all the important places. They really took their time with it too. It was a very long scene, very long drawn out scene. But yeah, I visually loved it. And of course, this red thread leading to Ariadne, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was like, that's thread? So cool. Yeah, the Minotaur's thread. Yeah, I mean, I guess if the tax thing doesn't happen in the book, though, I guess in the universe of the book, it is curious that, of course, doesn't make sense that she would kill him because they seem pretty happy, but they always say that you never know if people are really happy or not. Things can look really good and there can be unhappiness. So I don't know what the author had in mind, but all we know is this is an unsolved mystery. And I guess maybe the author just needed this character to disappear. I don't know.
That's a good guess because, I've only read, I told you, I'm like at 33% of this book. So I still have a good 67% to go. But it makes, at the risk of being a spoiler, they make a point of like kind of putting a period on Rebecca here. They're like, she lived the rest of her life in solitude and nobody ever saw her ever again. And that's the end of Rebecca. We're closing the chapter on her. So it made it sound like we're never going to see her again.
But then we did see her again in this episode. And it's like,
I know.
Just like they said with Amaranta, that she had like abandoned her, but then Amaranta shows back up. Now, at the same time, maybe Ursula doesn't really talk to Amaranta. So it's like a figurative abandonment.
Sure.
Just like the phrase they say here is that Rebecca shut the doors of the house and buried herself alive. And I thought that meant she was never going to come out of the house again. But then like we saw her later in the episode, and we can talk about that scene when we get there. But it's like, we also know she liked to eat dirt and that, she was kind of went back to the loss of her husband. She kind of goes back to her childhood, goes back to like the things she was doing when she first came. So like if you're eating dirt, that could be sort of a burial, like burying yourself in the dirt. Oh. And they kind of show an image of her eating dirt. So it's like, okay, was she actually eating dirt or is that a figurative thing? Is this part of the magical realism that they're using that as a symbol for something she's doing? She's burying herself alive. And that really means she's isolating herself and kind of cutting herself off from the rest of the people in her life. But there is they also say she buried herself alive, and then you see them burying Jose Arcadio too. So there's burials happening all over the place, both figurative and actual.
Yeah. It's fun too. They say that Jose Arcadio's corpse like stank, like his the gunpowder stench from his corpse stank so badly that they had to like encase it like in concrete. Because when they just buried him, like the whole town still smelled like gunpowder. And so I don't know, like the stench of him lingers on.
Well, maybe if he had been buried with a hoagie, it would have been smelled better.
Some hot peppers.
So then Aureliano picks up something from the swamp. And I really wasn't sure what it was, but then I think he picked up a little fish, perhaps, like the kind of fish that he used to fashion when he was making silver. And he thinks of his brother. And he mentions that the last 2 nights that he dreamt of his brother. So I think Aureliano's gotten a vision, maybe, and figures out that his brother is dead.
Yeah, he sees these things. His eyes are wide open.
Mm-hmm. So then they go to a political meeting about the truce. And, this paragraph, I might be butchering things, so you can help with it. But they want the liberals, the conservatives want the liberals to stop fighting and for some of them to join Congress. The terms are not acceptable to the liberals. They will continue to fight in towns all over. And people are threatened and shot by the conservative army for supporting the liberal insurgency. Aureliano and his men come to rescue the people when this happens, and the legend of Aureliano is born.
Yeah, he's like ruthless. It's like I called him Darth Aureliano here because he's like just ruthlessly killing people and like burning towns down. And I kind of get the sense that this is like representative of Macondo in a way, because people came to Macondo and it was a nice, peaceful place. And, politics eventually like tore the place apart. And so the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party is fighting, and Aureliano has embeshed himself in the Liberal Party. Now the Liberal Party wants to join Congress with the Conservatives, and he wants to fight against that. So it's like another division is happening, the same way Macondo got divided. Now Aureliano has like divided the liberals amongst themselves. So we have these like rebel liberals that are out in the streets trying to like have more representation because they feel like the liberals are not giving enough to the conservatives. They feel like the liberals in power are like bowing down too much and asking too little in return.
Yeah, I think maybe this gets to the heart of why I didn't like this episode. I don't like this new Aureliano. I'm like, you're ruining our boy. And, we remember back earlier, he stood up to that Dr. Noguera, who was the one that was in the town and had gotten Arcadio and some of his friends to join the revolution. And he tells him, you're a butcher is what you are. You're just a ruthless butcher. Yep. You're just hurting people. And originally, Aureliano seemed to be, his main purpose was to protect Macondo. And, now he's been damaged. I guess his ideals, the things that he believed in, he's gotten jaded about things. And so he's now like coming to different, it's not just a different understanding, but his innocence or his ideals seem to have also gone out the window.
Yeah, absolutely. He called that other guy a butcher.
Yeah.
That other guy was nice cakes compared to Aureliano here. Now Aureliano is way worse than that guy ever was. So yeah, you're exactly right. He's become what he hates.
So there's now a wanted poster for him. It seems the Liberal Party has betrayed him. He burns his red scarf, a sign that he's no longer representing them. And men in his own regime try to kill him. He's become the butcher he called out in so long ago in Macondo. I already said that.
Oh, yeah. We both said that. Okay, great.
He proclaims himself chief of the revolutionary forces of the Caribbean. So he's created his own, he's not liberal anymore. He's like the revolutionary forces of the Caribbean. Yes. And he's a general now. But he refused to take that promotion until every conservative leader was killed. And just what's happened to our peaceful Aureliano?
Yeah, he's got these big plans now. It's like it seems like he's in his element almost, and he's a killing machine. And I don't have anything else to say. I mean, I'm looking at my notes here for the next scene when he talks to the other general. So that's where my next notes lie.
Yeah. So he is approached by a new man named General Jose Raquel Moncada. And this is interesting because so the town is named Macondo And this man's last name is Moncada. So, I mean, I didn't match it up, but I feel like they're just taking...
It's an anagram.
Yeah, it's an anagram. And they, you know, I cannot believe that was not done on purpose, that somehow that this man is connected with Macondo, or he's almost a mirror opposite, or it's like the mirror world. So they played chess, and it's a reminder of his games with Makote. And also that his father used to, when his father played chess with the priest, he discussed if they should be playing a game if they have different ideas of what is right.
That's right.
So it was just kind of interesting that, I mean, this whole show is supposed to be about the repetition of things happening over and over again. And of course, you know, you can't help but think about the games he would play with Makote, and you can't help think about his father having this talk, which wasn't done as eloquently in the show as it is in the book. But, you know, there's this discussion about how can you play a game with somebody who's not your friend? You know, can you really play a game with someone who's supposed to be your enemy? And Aureliano, here we hear a little more about what Aureliano's thinking. And he says that all politicians are the same. It's just a matter of what time they go to mass. And Aureliano also tries to spew out some ideals about fighting for the people, but Moncada has his number. He knows he's really out for revenge because his group stabbed him in the back.
Yeah, all that right. Yes. And it's cool that, like, yeah, they are playing chess, that he agrees to play chess with this conservative general. And so, like, he's back at the table with another conservative agreeing to play a game. And I like the thing he makes about the how liberals and conservatives are the same. He says liberals go to mass at 5 o'clock and conservatives go to mass at 8 o'clock. So I was wondering, Lindsey, based on those times, what time would you go to church? Would you prefer to go to mass at 5 o'clock p.m. or 8 o'clock p.m.?
Well, I was wondering if, you know, it makes me curious if you have those numbers right. Because I would think that conservatives would go to bed earlier. Or not.
I would think so. I was thinking maybe they meant a.m. I was like, they go to church awfully early, 5 a.m. Because they did say 5 and 8.
Yeah. It's a very specific time frame he's thinking of. So,
well, tell me the answer. If you had to choose between going to church at 5 and 8, which would you go to?
5 p.m., 8 p.m.
Yes, PMs.
Well, I would rather go to church at 5 p.m.
Okay, yeah, we'd be going to church together then. That's what I'd rather go to. So we're both conservative we're both liberals based on that. So cool.
Oh gosh, they were right. Okay. So then Aureliano is now attacking citizens and has been appointed. Oh, this man, Jose Raquel Macondo, has been appointed civil leader of Macondo, and he promises to look after the town. Aureliano compliments him but recognizes that he's still a conservative. Now, Steve, did this character, when he first shows up, they make it seem like the two of them know each other. And I'm like, okay, have we met this guy before? Did he grow up with him? Like, how do they know each other?
Just on the battlefield. They've been opponents on the battlefield and admired each other's styles. That's all. Oh, okay. And his name would come up earlier in the book, like when they would talk about battles and stuff. But this is the first time he, like, you know, plays like a major role. Yeah. But yeah, that was one of my notes, is that he was appointed the leader of Macondo just because his name was similar.
Yeah. Okay, so it's time for breakfast. And you find out the twins. Yeah, exactly. We find out that the twins, Aureliano Segundo and Jose Arcadio Segundo, like to play jokes on their grandmother so that she can't tell them apart.
Yeah, they sit at the wrong table at breakfast. Wow, big whoop.
Well, maybe there'll be better jokes in the future.
I really hope so.
Maybe, yeah. I'm waiting for some kind of sexual thing to happen because it seems like everyone's got some sexual weirdness to them.
They're too young right now. Let's not go there.
So she tells Aureliano Jose to go get his auntie. It's now that we discover that Aureliano Jose never got used to sleeping alone, and he's lusting after his aunt.
That's right. And she's kind of letting it happen. She's like kind of okay with him lusting after her. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally gross stuff. I think more of this happens later, or is this it for this scene? Because I don't want to talk about it really. I think this is bad.
Yeah, and it keeps coming up. Like they keep leaving it, and then you come back, and you're like, we could have done with just one scene. You know, we don't need more. We don't need to really get this point.
Yeah, the more I'm thinking about it, with these scenes with Aureliano Jose, like how much of a creep he is. Like, I think I'm with you. I don't like this episode either because he's in it.
Yeah, it's a lot of these guys and a lot of just Aureliano becoming a warlord. And it's like, okay. So Jose Raquel Moncada enters Macondo and asks Ursula to show him around. She shares that both sides have done much damage to Macondo. He promises to take good care of the town, and he calls Aureliano his enemy, his close enemy. But they both hate injustice.
This started reminding me of Game of Thrones, like from this point on, because like this was a very Game of Thrones conversation. Mm-hmm. These like big quotes, like I said, like I wrote down, injustice is swaying in the direction of what is convenient. Mm-hmm. And that's absolutely something Tyrion would say in Game of Thrones. And they talk about how words are basically meaningless. And that's another theme of Game of Thrones, that words are wind and, you know, words mean nothing basically. But yeah, I liked this conversation. I was riveted by it. I liked it a lot.
Well, maybe you were just happy that it cut away from Amaranta.
Maybe that's what it was.
And now we're back to those two, though. Amaranta's looking for candles in the pantry, and Aureliano Jose surprises her. They kiss, but stop when Ursula calls out for Amaranta.
I mean, I hate everything about this kid. I hate the way he looks. I hate his eyes.
What?
I don't know. I'm programmed to hate him now. So
yeah, they haven't given him really anything interesting to do yet besides try to make out with his aunt.
Yeah, they should have given him a redeeming quality of some sort, you know, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So we just hate him.
We didn't. Well, the first thing we don't find out about Jose Arcadio too is that, you know, Pilar wants, you know, to screw him. So, yeah. So, General Moncada replaces, in Macondo, he replaces soldiers with unarmed police. Mm-hmm. And he makes a speech, and we see him with the priest, the father, and another gent who may be Makote. I don't know. They were standing on either side of them. So I thought maybe one was the priest and it was the same priest. So I thought, well, maybe this is Mr. Makote here, who's still serving in somewhat of a position of a leadership. And
he's alive in the book, but I could have swore he got a headshot like in like the whole battle a couple episodes back, but I don't know.
Yeah, this man was standing on the other side of Moncada, and I didn't recognize him as being Makote, but I was like, I mean, Makote is supposed to be older, but so I wasn't sure who that person was supposed to be. He could be nobody, but they talk about that they're going to reopen the school and to give everybody a public education.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're trying to show you that, you know, they're going in the right direction here. The town seems like it's going in a good place. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we're kind of hanging hopes that things might be better in Macondo with the schools open and the policemen don't carry guns around anymore. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems okay.
Yeah, they are, you know, the guy is keeping his promise to focus on the well-being of the town. So that seems positive. So Ursula is now, you know, seeing these changes made. Ursula is now a little friendlier towards Moncada, and they talk about what Macondo used to be like. And she says they had no fear, and she talks about what it used to be like. So back at the Buendia house, Aureliano Jose comes into Amaranta's bedroom again, ready to give it the old college try once again. But, you know, she starts to give in again, but stops him. Unlike Rebecca, you know, she won't allow herself to give into this thing. You know, when Rebecca and Jose Arcadio too, who weren't really related or brother and sister, you know, it was Ursula really was like, oh my gosh, this is an abomination. No way. So In Amaranta's case, they actually are related, so it's worse, but Amaranta doesn't allow herself to give in to that, and she orders him out of her bedroom. He says he will leave if she really wants him to, and he then decides he would rather die in the battlefield than live with her indifference. And this is the second man that she has driven mad.
Well, this one, yeah, he deserves it. Get out of here, buddy. I like you. I like your plan. She told you no 3 times. So he finally packed up and left. This dude, I wrote down here, this dude is a real bicho raro. He's definitely full on rarito. You know what I'm saying?
No, what does that mean?
He's a little bitch.
What? Okay, besides the fact that he's falling in love with the wrong person, what exactly is your problem with this character?
That's the only thing we know about him. He lusts after his aunt. He doesn't hang out with the other kids in the family. Doesn't seem like he really does anything worthwhile in the household. So yeah, get out there and join the liberals. Fight in the army, buddy. That sounds good to me.
Well, let's remember something about before we just reject him as a character.
Okay.
I just want us to recall that just like, his beginnings are in a way very much like Arcadio. He's kind of dumped off at the house. His father is in grief. His mom, died in childbirth, so he never knew his mother. And he's basically abandoned by his father. And the care is given to Amaranta. So she's the attachment that he has in the house. We know that things were strained. And we know that things were strained between her and Ursula. Also, that for the first year that this kid was a baby, nobody talked because there was a vow of silence. So, yep. I mean, he hasn't had the best, even though technically you think, oh, he's surrounded by family. But this family is a little dysfunctional, and maybe he hasn't been given he hasn't had an education because they didn't have education. So it's what has he gotten? What has he received? What has been poured into this kid? The only person that cared, you gave him love and attention was his Aunt Amaranta. So
he should look at her as a motherly figure, not as a figure that he lusts after.
Yeah.
It's good that you're here to defend him, because he needs defending right now. Because I'm not seeing any reason to defend him. So I'm glad you are, because those are valid points.
Maybe he'll become more interesting later. Yeah, I mean, Arcadio, the thing is, with Arcadio, I think we felt kind of sorry for him, but then he did a lot of despicable things. So far, I mean, this kid is, it's kind of gross that he's lusting after his aunt, but he's not trying to do anything mean. He's got the wrong idea.
Misguided.
He's misguided, yeah. Yeah, but he's not being mean-spirited or anything.
The difference with Arcadio is we met him a little bit before we started disliking him, and we saw things like him dancing with his sisters and helping out Melquiades, and I don't know. We saw a few positive aspects of him before we started disliking him, and we never saw that with this kid.
Right. So Aureliano sees a vision of his father, and his father hands him an object. It's a yellow flower. He writes his mother a letter, and Ursula returns to the tree to find Jose Arcadio Buendia looking at his hands as if he's handed somebody something. And when Ursula reads the letter and realizes that her son's omens have returned, he knows that it's his dad's time to die. And he keeps repeating the phrase, "We come from water." And is the phrase, "We come from water" is the phrase that he keeps saying him. And she unties him from the tree. I'm stopping there for a moment.
Okay, sure. Yeah, well, my first note, which is my first inconsequential note, is doesn't he look a lot like Jack Black when they see him in that field there? I couldn't see anything but Jack Black, because he had that beard, the long hair. It's cool how it seems like they actually see each other in their visions, in their dreams, because there's objects passed between them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I really like these scenes. Well, not these scenes. We're getting ready to get to some different scenes, but yeah, this whole sequence I really dug, and I'm thinking about the fact that they finally untied him from the tree, and they're getting ready to take him to bed now, right?
Right. They help him to his bed. He's not strong enough to return there himself, so it takes like four to five men to help him walk there. And he says again, we come from water and our fates are entwined. Now, as he's saying this, what's interesting is he looks very much at peace. And I couldn't remember, you remember when Melquiades died and he kept saying a phrase over and over again. And it was something about turning into matter. Like we're going to be kind of, I can't remember what it is, but it's something about we're going to become matter. And it was he was really in sad and despair about that. But here he seems different. He seems at peace. And now he's saying we come from water. And, I was thinking about that phrase and what he meant by that.
Okay.
And I wondered if he meant when he says we come from water, if he meant like we all come from water, or like Ursula, you and I come from water. Like we came from the swamp. We came to Macondo. We found this place because of the swamp and our fates are entwined. So yeah, I was wondering about that phrase, if you had any thoughts about, or, from the book or from your own thoughts about what he's trying to communicate there.
No, I like that theory though, about how it could be personal to them. I mean, I just took it as like the grand evolutionary scale where he's like realizing that we come from, water, like water-based creatures through evolution. That was where my mind pretty much went and stayed. I didn't really ponder the we come from water as much as I started pondering the chestnut tree again. I started thinking about the fact that they had him tied to this tree, and now that, they decide that he's going to, well, they don't decide that he's going to die. Aureliano predicts he's going to die. Ursula believes it. So she unties him from the tree and takes him to bed. Mm-hmm. And it makes me think, like, why did they keep him tied to the chestnut tree that whole time then?
Yes.
They could have untied him. Mm-hmm. And I think that the reason is because they were wrong. They tied him to the chestnut tree out of convenience because he was out of control, and they thought that was the only way they could keep him at peace. Mm-hmm. And then they never bothered to even try to untie him because he remained at peace. So they just kind of let it be. And they probably should have tried to untie him, but they did not. And it's like almost directly because of that is like how the town went askew. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, they were absolutely wrong in keeping him tied to the chestnut tree that whole time.
I told you that a long time ago, Steve.
Well, I agree with you.
I said, okay, that I understand you tied him to the tree, but now, like, maybe see if he's calmed down, or if, their idea, they had this idea of madness and just assumed that, like, oh, if he's mm-hmm. untied from the tree, he'll be out of control. But yeah,
that's what I said. Yeah,
we don't know that.
We don't know that.
So then, all right. So he wakes up in the bed and he finds himself in infinite rooms.
Yeah,
and I knew you were just gonna love this part. So he opens the door and it takes him through, and he's seeing things across the world. He sees Aureliano Jose finding his father. Okay, so Aureliano Jose gets to hug his father and they reunite. So that's nice.
That could be good.
He then goes through the door again and comes to the pool where Arcadio has just gotten out of the water and Melquiades is in the water. And this was so cool because I remember at first I was like, who is that? And it's Arcadio. And I don't know if you remember, but when Arcadio comes out of the water, I was telling you that I kept waiting for the moment to see what happened to Melquiades, but they cut away from that moment and look at Arcadio's back. So it's kind of like what you were saying in that moment. You were talking about if when he first finds Macondo, if he saw Aureliano, and it was almost like the beginning, that moment was a time travel moment, and that if, that he would have seen his aged father come through the door, but Arcadio's back was turned, So that was just really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I love that scene and seeing him sink. Like I thought about what you were saying. I was like, look, we see it actually happen. It's on film.
We do know later Melquiades, he wakes up on the shore a ways up the bank. So I was like, I wondered if they were going to have Jose Arcadio try to help him out of the water, and then he ends up, but they didn't do that. He just kind of Melquiades, though. He sees Melquiades, and then the next door he sees that a descendant of his named Aureliano Babylonia.
Yeah.
Which I guess is probably Spanish for Babylon.
That was my first thought.
Yeah. He's reading from Melquiades' journals about the moment that Jose Arcadio Buendia was living right then. And there he finds Prudencio, his old buddy, and both of them walk into a carpet of stars. Yeah, this is very cool visually. Looks a lot like Marta and Jonas going through the Stargate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about this scene, Steve?
Nothing but good thoughts. I just love the way this whole played out. It reminded me of the OA. I don't know if you've had a chance to see the OA yet, but there's a lot of these walking into a room of stars and standing among the stars just like they were. And yeah, that's kind of what I felt like I was watching for a couple seconds there. Yeah, hand in hand. It's like this man that was his nemesis and that he was scared of for so long is his buddy now, leading him to the afterlife.
Yeah. So let's unpack that for just a minute. What does that mean to you that, during the plague, he saw Prudencio, he saw Prudencio later. Prudencio's shown up several times. And at the hour of his death, he sees Prudencio again. Is this redemption, forgiveness? What does it mean that Prudencio is there to accompany him into the afterlife?
This is redemption, forgiveness, just like you just said, because Prudencio represents his guilt. He killed this man, and then he ran from that murder, and he always remembered that. And that was the lowest point of his life, is killing this man. And so now he's, come to peace with that. And it seems like Prudencio has forgiven Jose Arcadio in return, or at least this vision of him has. So that's exactly what I see. Exactly what you said. I think it's a clear redemption arc. And his funeral is just as cool too. I love the music in his funeral.
Right. The stars, when they walk through the stars turn into flowers that are falling from the sky. They cover Macondo like a carpet, and a funeral procession carries the body. Ursula is without her son to help her mourn. And at this moment, during the funeral, this is when we see Rebecca again. She steps outside and watches the parade, or whatever you want to call it, the procession walk by, but she doesn't join the family. She stays apart.
Yeah, and I think that sticks true with her character, how she's dressed in black still. She's staying there in Arcadio's old house. And I think that's where she's going to remain for the rest of her life, because I think in the book they do say she stays there forever. The last time anybody saw her was when somebody came to her house to try to somebody came to her house to try to rob her, and she ended up shooting him or something. Well, maybe we'll see that next season. A little spoiler for you. But yeah, nothing of significance happens to her. And I think I was wondering why she didn't go to the funeral, but I think I now know, because she's isolated herself away into her home. And she's coming to the door to watch her father go by, but she stays isolated.
Yeah. It was kind of sad that, Aureliano wasn't here for the funeral.
But they passed a flower to each other, though. In their visions, they passed flowers back and forth to one another.
That's true. But this, the visually how this scene plays out is Ursula's walking by herself, and then everybody else, her family, which is right now who's left is, Amaranta and her grandchildren and Santa Sofia and her, daughter. So she just, that she has none of her, Amaranta is there, but their relationship's still probably kind of weird. after she swore to abandon her. But yeah, it was like she wasn't walking with anybody, and that was kind of sad. That might just be like how things are done, but you would have liked to see somebody walking with Ursula.
Yeah, holding her hand or something, at least.
Yeah.
I think one of the grandkids would have been a great step in for that. You know, that's what grandkids are good for. But yeah, she was alone. That is awful.
Mm-hmm. Now, years after his father's death, Aureliano finally returns to Macondo. And the crowd, but it's not a happy return. He's there to attack the town. The crowd is encouraged by Moncada to return home, and he tells Ursula that Aureliano has returned. If they attack them, then they will defend themselves and the town. Ursula then goes to visit her son at the fort. She asks him to reconsider attacking his own town. Aureliano wants to overthrow the government, and she says, like, things have been peaceful.
Yeah, she's right.
Why do this now? Because it's actually, we're doing well. We're good, bro.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I'll give him the option to surrender. And I wondered if we would see Aureliano Jose, if he would come see his grandma or, anything. But no, she doesn't. Again, he's kind of left in the dust. It's like he's, as a character, it's just consistent. Right. It's not like he's that important that she's like, that he's going to be like, grandma or anything like that.
Yeah, maybe that changes later on because, yeah, you're right. We do see a vision of him like greeting his father later on. But yeah, for right now, nothing. I like how she says that like Aureliano is resistant to nostalgia. Like you can't even like talk about the old times with him anymore because he's just like he's Darth Vader now. Like I said, he just wants nothing but to take over, it seems. And it seems like he's the bad guy now. Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's sort of a chilling ending here. We see him lead the attack on Macondo, and Ursula is praying for the souls of the faithful departed. She prays to Jesus. She says, he who carries the gates of hell and Hades, and she just prays for herself and for her town and for her dead ancestors. And then she tells the ghost, or she tells the soul of her husband, that we ended up raising a monster. And, the whole basis of the show is that her, mom told her, if you marry this man, you're going to give birth to a monster, basically. You're going to give birth to a pig or this monstrous creature. And she recognizes that her son is that monster.
Yeah, good full circle there. I didn't even make that connection. But yeah, everything from episode 1 is coming into play here. And coming full circle. We got the Ouroboros full circle. And yeah, it sucks because like this whole time through, well, it doesn't suck. I mean, it's not, I don't know if he's going to stop being my favorite character, but he's always been like, I mean, I have like, main character blindness perhaps where like they say this guy's the main guy and I say, okay, he's my favorite then. The whole time I've been on board with him and I'm not so on board with him now, but I'm still kind of fascinated with it and wanting to see where it goes.
Yeah, I guess I would have liked if they had ended the episode with Jose Arcadio walking out with Prudencio.
Yeah.
And, they could have started the new season with Aureliano's battle, attack.
Yeah, I guess they're going for the cliffhanger because we are left on kind of a cliffhanger here, which is like all the episodes kind of end on a strange note. And this one's no different, even though it's cool. Like the last image we see is like him screaming and raising his sword. So obviously that's cool. But yeah, it seems like this should roll right into the next episode. And maybe it will. Maybe episode 9 of season 2 will. But
this show isn't really, I guess the way I see it is this show isn't really, story isn't really about war. War is a setting or a factor that's causing the times and the unrest that are happening. But this story is more about the repetition of time and the family and the generation. I don't know. I guess I just think leaving it on a battle, I don't consider that a cliffhanger because it doesn't really feel that Like, we know, like, the battle that's going to happen. It's not like, I mean, Macondo is going to be destroyed. I mean, the story isn't really about Macondo. It's the people in Macondo, so.
Yeah, Macondo, take a back seat. All right.
But that's how this season half ends.
Well, it's a definite season ender, I suppose. But yeah, it leads you wondering what's going to happen next, and wondering if I'm going to come back around to like an Aureliano again, or if he's just going to be a bad guy from here on. Did you have any a particular character? I mean, I have an idea in my head who you might say, but do you have like a particular character that you've consistently dug this whole season that you want to call out?
I mean, from a storytelling perspective, Aureliano feels like the main dude.
Yeah.
But beyond him, like, I am a big defender of Pilar, and I've continued to do that. But Ursula had a really badass episode, like last episode when she stood up to Arcadio. So I thought, like I said, but as far as consistently that I liked, I would say probably Pilar.
Pilar, that's cool. Yeah, Ursula is funny how she'll kind of present herself in like a unflattering way throughout this season. But yeah, I always kind of come back around to like respecting her and liking her.
It's hard for me to connect, like, in my mind, it's hard for me to connect this Ursula, the older Ursula, with the younger Ursula. When I see the younger Ursula, it seems like a completely different person to me. Because we don't see, like, we see she stood up to her husband, but she's definitely grown as a firecracker, I don't know, kind of before it seemed like there was just so many things she did as a younger person that I didn't like, how she was, I guess, because mainly I think of how she was such a prude. And then, she was just kind of like, whining at her husband. Seemed like her whole personality. And then she was very unkind to Pilar and was just like acting like her son was all innocent. And yeah, I don't know. But when she stood up to her son for truth, justice, in the Colombian way, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to go to a little, like I was saying before, I'm going to lead us for one last little feature here before we go. And I took a little quiz because I wanted to find out, which female Buendia character am I? So I took a little quiz and I found out that I am Fernanda del Carpio, who we haven't met yet. But I haven't read her in the book either. But it says, like, about her, it says, "What are you doing here? Didn't you always think you were different, meant for something more? You were divorced from reality until it was no longer possible to ignore. But since then, you've begrudged everyone and everything that refused to indulge the fantasy of the life you never got. Maybe it would surprise you to know just how many people let you live in denial." I was like, holy crap, they got that from the quiz? So, yeah, we're going to find out about you here, Lindsey. I'm going to enter your name into this quiz here, and we're going to start the quiz. So find out, which Buendia woman are you?
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me which Buendia man I was, since you took a quiz about, okay.
I'm going to find out, okay. We're going to accept and proceed, because you have to accept it and proceed it. Otherwise, it says that you're a contrarian, and you're not. Okay. A long time ago, your family was gifted with an how do you say that word? Alchemical laboratory. It has gone unused for years. How do you perceive this room? A, the room is new, clean. There's no clutter. B, this room is unkempt, although I'm the only one that seems to notice. Or C, I hate this room. I never go into it. It reminds me of things that are lost.
Number one.
Okay, number one. It's new and clean. Okay, what do you carry with you? Answer 1, the bones of your dead, the regrets of your past, the weight of a secret, the memory of a better time, hope for the future, or the clothes on your back and nothing more.
Hope for the future.
There you go. Okay, that sounds fun. All right. There is a dead man under your window. How did this happen? Okay. A, he loved me and it tragically led to his demise. B, he was a thief and I shot him. C, he was chained to the chestnut tree. He doesn't know he's dead. D, there is no dead man. I don't see a dead man. Or E, I don't know. He smells strongly of gunpowder, but there's nobody that could have shot him.
3, whatever 3 is.
He is chained to the chestnut tree?
Yeah.
That was 3? Okay. Who do you begrudge? Everyone? The people who wronged you? Sir Francis Drake? The narrative? Conservatives? Ants? Or nothing?
Is that ANTS?
ANTS, the ants that crawl around.
Yeah, I like the ants answer.
Okay. It's actually, it says, I fucking hate ants. So that's what your answer is. Okay, this is question 6 of 8 when they got 3 more to go. Mm-hmm. Okay, tell me a story. How does it begin? A girl floats away to the sky, never to return. B, a man is constantly chased by butterflies. C, the population of a small town stops feeling the need to sleep. C, in a time of grief, it rains for 5 years. Or E, a young man is born with a pig's tail.
The one, the number 4, the one about raining.
The time of grief. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that's what I chose too. Would you rather exit the narrative suddenly and tragically, or would you rather live and change beyond recognition?
Number 2.
You'd rather live and change beyond recognition. Mm-hmm. Okay. Last question. Did you touch the ice? Answer A, yes. Answer B, what kind of question is this? Of course I touched the ice. Or C, I did not. I didn't ask to be part of this.
Number 1.
Number 1, yes, you touched the ice. Okay, let's find out who you are in the Buendia family. Lindsey, you're me. You're Fernanda del Carpia also. So you got the same answer I did. Obviously, we answered the same way. So we're simpatico, Lindsey. I was really hoping you would get another female, but we got the same one. That's kind of weird.
I think this is a very strange quiz.
It is, but I thought it was fun. I liked it. But yeah, that's the last thing I had. Did you have anything fun for me, Lindsey? Do you have a quiz for me now?
Well, I don't have a quiz, Steve, but I would like to. I think it's important that we sort of give our thoughts about this latest, news about Baron Bo-Odar.
Oh boy. Okay.
You might have seen that, in the Dark Ways universe, there's been an update on Baron's Instagram where, so we've had a sort of roller coaster ride when it comes to what's the next project going to be. Mm-hmm. So first we knew there was going to be this series named Tyll, Tyll, that was supposed to be about a court jester somehow. That got dropped, and then we heard about Something is Killing the Children, mm-hmm. being a Netflix series, which would be adapted graphic novel by James Tinian IV that was supposed to be made into a Netflix series. And yesterday, the status changed to say that it's currently working on an HBO Max series. And so everybody was like, what series? What is this? Something that's killing the children? Has it been sold to HBO Max?
Right.
Is it Tyll? Is it something else? We hadn't heard that he was working with Max. And then there was also information on the Instagram story, which has been now taken down or has expired, where it mm-hmm. mentioned a movie script. They were celebrating. Right. They were celebrating a movie script, being completed. So, the Instagram post talks about an HBO Max series. Mm-hmm. So maybe the movie script is something even completely different than that. So nobody really knows what to think.
Mm-hmm. I've got speculation though. My speculation is
speculate.
Yeah, I do think that Something is Killing the Children is still going to be a thing. That's still going to be a Netflix thing because that was like a Netflix property that Netflix bought. So I don't think that's going to be the show that's coming to HBO or Max, we should say. I think that's something completely separate. Could be Tyll. It could be something. It's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be Something That's Killing the Children because that's explicitly linked to Netflix. And if anything, they're going to be working on something brand new. The movie script, I guess that's something else. It sounds like they're just working on a lot of projects and we're just not being aware of them. And hopefully a lot of these projects are finished and and they can start promoting them. Do you have any more information or speculation yourself?
No, I don't really, but it's strange that this, Something is Killing the Children series. I think, we've talked about that. It seems a little out in left field from them a little bit to, in the way it's like, okay, it's horror. It's about children, going missing or being harmed. So it's sort of in the dark, somewhat of what could be happening with Dark, but it just doesn't seem to fit. I will say, in my experience as a film critic and just what I've seen, you hear a lot about things that are going to be done and then they're not done. And then they, movies and TV shows can go through what's called development hell, where you'll hear that certain talent is attached to a project, but it doesn't always stick. Sometimes they're taken off. So there's no reason to believe that, there's no reason, nothing to really base it on, like Baron Bodar will be doing Something's Killing the Children. There's really nothing is 100% set in stone, especially when it comes to Hollywood. So it could be that show is still happening, but they're no longer attached to it. It's really wide open. And I think we're all just waiting to hear more about some of these projects because, 1899, that was like 3 years ago now that came out.
Yeah, were they living on the residuals of that? Come on, give us some more stuff. You need some jobs. I mean, maybe they have been having some writing jobs and stuff, and maybe they've been secretly under the radar doing something that we don't know about. It looked like they were celebrating because that Instagram post you're talking about, it's obvious they were out to dinner somewhere and having drinks, and looks like they were celebrating some successes. So, I mean, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, I just wish we had some solid information, like something actually official, a date or a trailer would be so exciting, but right now we got just rumors and speculation.
Somebody give me and Lindsey some work. We need some jobs here ourselves. We got to recap these shows, so give them to us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's our wrap up time here. I've just recently released an Introvoid song. I called it "Winden is a Festering Wound," and it's really sad. So yeah, check that one out. And I'll definitely be working on some more music down the road. But for right now, yeah, check out Introvoid. Next week here on Sweet Child of Time, we'll be beginning the Wheel of Time journey. So stick with us while we do season 3 of Wheel of Time with myself and James. And after that, we'll be doing something else time related. I'm not sure what. But yeah, those are my plugs. How about you, Lindsey?
Well, I'm still don't have much to promote yet, but hope to in the future. Hope to complete my Alabama Pilgrimage podcast and the top 10 from 2024, the Arts and Faith list. So I have things coming down the line that I have yet to complete. But yeah, that's all really I have to plug, and hopefully be working with Steve more this year.
I mean, you're kind of going to have to, so just get yourself ready. But yeah, until then, check us both out at oneofmystories.com for Lindsey, sweetchildofTime.com for me. And yeah, I guess until next week, find some water and shade and yellow flowers.
Aww.
Bye.
Bye.